What if I told you that every midnight on the Mississippi River the water turns as dark as ink, and something huge slips beneath the surface, leaving no splash, no ripple, only whispers of fear? Early Choctaw stories spoke of a leviathan they called the Akaka, a black water monster said to glide through the currents in silence so profound it could swallow a canoe whole without warning. In 1874, a steamship captain's log recorded a 6-foot-wide swirl of black foam chasing his vessel for 3 miles, yet when rescue boats arrived, they found nothing but an empty wake. And in 1912, a party of surveyors returned from an expedition with muddy boots and shaking hands, claiming they watched in horror as 2 glowing eyes blinked at them through the fog, then vanished without a trace. Scientists and rescue teams have crawled up and down these muddy banks time and again, armed with sonar, nets, and even explosives, and our river beast hunting gear has never looked so silly. But the Mississippi always gives back only silence. Is the Blackwater monster just tall tales, or could this ancient river hide a creature unknown to science? Stick around. Tonight we pull back the curtain on this shadowy legend and you won't believe what we uncover. Ready to question absolutely everything you thought you knew about this river? Now let's cast our nets deeper into history, back to the bustling river towns and tangled cypress swamps that line the Mississippi. It's the mid-1800s and the river is America's superhighway. Steamboats thunder past piles of cotton bales worth a small fortune, gamblers in wide-brimmed hats back red-hot poker tables in New Orleans saloons, and half the nation's commerce is squeezed through this ribbon of mud and timber. Front-page headlines in 1853's Daily Delta Chronicle screamed, "Suspicious splashes on the loop, monster rumors re-emerge," while local photographers peddled sepia-toned prints of grinning captains clutching coils of rope as if to say, "We've conquered nature, except maybe that one thing." Meanwhile, life on the riverbank is rough. Heat that turns your collar to a wet rag, mosquitoes large enough to carry off a chihuahua, and gossip as fast as the paddle wheels churn. Across these waters lived the Choctaw and Chickasaw peoples for centuries before European boots cracked their trails. Their elders exchanged stories by lantern light about an enormous black serpent sliding beneath their canoes, never seen, only felt, like a chill in the marrow. By 1870, river skippers in their logbooks recorded similar tremors. Something heavy bumped the hull at night, yet no gangplank or cargo was adrift. These river hands were hardy sorts. They had already survived yellow fever, fate-wielding currents, and rival gamblers who'd cheat a man blind for a single deck of cards. But whispers of jaws the size of wagon wheels? That was a chapter too strange to file under river risks. Surveyors hired to map the river's twists and turns in 1874 returned with mud-spattered boots and trembling voices. One sketch shows a swirl of black foam where a survey raft should have been, featuring a note in the margin reading, "No hint of debris, just the beast's wake." Punchy newspaper cartoons depicted top-hatted gentlemen peering over railings with comic panic. "The creature! The creature!" Yet for every cartoon printed, for every campfire yarn spun, no hard evidence ever surfaced, no bone, no scale, not even a single claw print in the prairie mud. Ask any historian, and they'll mutter something about river folklore run amok. But ask the fishermen whose nets drag up frayed ropes and nothing else, and they'll swear the water shifted beneath them, like an unseen leviathan slithering through. However, the real question isn't whether these rumors spread, it's why they never died. Beneath the babbling brooks of gossip and the dry ink of maritime registries lies a shadowy trail of half-told tales and unexplained vanishings. And tonight we sift through these archives, dusty trinkets, and oral legends to uncover exactly why the Blackwater monster continues to haunt America's great river. And now it's time to plunge beneath the river's murky surface and confront the clues that refuse to stay hidden. The first strange disappearance unfolded on a moonless night in 1868, when old Hank Malone, a seasoned flatboat captain known for cracking jokes about river snakes over a shot of whiskey, vanished without a ripple. His crew awoke to find his lantern dangling from the railing, its oil lamp still burning low, casting quivering shadows on the black water. No shout rang out, no boat slammed ashore, only that lone lantern swinging as if driven by an unseen hand. Morning search parties combed the shoreline for days, discovering only Malone's hat perched atop a cypress knee, soaked through and stamped with deep claw marks. You'd think a chubby river cook would at least leave footprints, but instead there was perfect eerie silence, like he simply shrugged himself into the current and drifted away. You can almost feel the chill of that night, can't you? Let's rewind to that fateful night and examine the second clue, mysterious markings. In 1872, surveyors mapping a blind oxbow bend discovered a driftwood panel lashed to a snag, etched with symbols no one could read. Imagine staring at strange, spiraling glyphs that twist and curl like river currents. Only these weren't natural. Geologists later determined the wood was decades old, yet the carvings appeared fresh, the cuts still crisp and oozing resin. Local legends held that the Choctaw used similar symbols in sacred ceremonies to tame water spirits, and if that's true, who carved them and why float them into the river's path? Explorers spent weeks mapping the glyphs' alignment with cosmic events, new moons, meteor showers, only to conclude that the carvings formed a crude map pointing to a sunken bend not on any existing charts. Makes you wonder whether someone was trying to guide the monster or lure it out. Fast forward 1 year to the third clue, phantom paddle wheel echoes. In 1873, residents of Natchez reported hearing the thunderous churning of a steamboat engine in the dead of night. No lights, no whistle, no vessel in sight. Sounded like the Theodora herself roaring up the bluffs. One eyewitness scribbled in a diary, but when we raced to the riverbank, there was nothing but lily pads drifting in moonlight. Scientists later tested the acoustics of the floodplain and confirmed that under certain temperature inversions, sounds can warp and carry for miles. But even accounting for that, the timbre and rhythm matched no known engine. It wasn't just a whistle or a chug, it was a full-throated roar that died abruptly at the waterline, as if swallowed by something colossal below. You'd think 19th century engineers would have documented that anomaly, but official logs gloss it over as acoustic illusion. Convenient, isn't it? Next, we turn to unsolved oral records passed down by Chickasaw elders who spoke of a creature called Ishta-Kali, the silent drifter. They described how before sunrise the river would breathe in one long, low exhale, rattling canoe paddles against ribs. It's the breath of Ishta-Kali, one elder would say over crackling campfires, and if you hear it, your heart may never still. These tales carry a haunting consistency. Watchers glimpsed a dark silhouette sliding between cypress trunks, its length stretching dozens of feet. Sometimes they glimpsed shifting fins or a huge tail fin sweeping beneath starlight. Anthropologists noted parallels with myths from other cultures, water dragons, river serpents, guardian spirits, yet the Mississippi legends predate European contact by centuries. Something about this region seems to inspire stories of a powerful hidden presence that both terrifies and fascinates. But perhaps the most confounding clue lies in an 1898 sailor's log discovered in a dusty archive. Captain Leroy Gaines, a no-nonsense riverman, sketched a crude portrait of two luminescent eyes floating 3 feet above the water and scrawled beside it, "No craft, no crew, only those eyes, watching, waiting." He claimed his crew saw the eyes surface, then vanish behind a curtain of fog so thick you could slice it with a knife. Gaines's handwriting grows erratic afterward, describing tremors in the plank deck and a voice, or so I swear, calling my name. His final entry ends mid-sentence, the rest burned away. No one knows what became of Gaines. His boat arrived weeks later with a single oar lashed to the stern and the rest of the vessel empty. What do these fragments, an abandoned lantern, inexplicable carvings, phantom engines, whispered legends, and a mariner's eerie diary, actually point to? A massive creature adapting to human inventions? A nexus of cultural myth and acoustic trickery? Or is someone or something cultivating this legend to keep us away from forbidden secrets in the river's depths? One thing is certain. Each clue layers fresh suspense atop ancient mysteries, and the Mississippi's darkest currents still hold their secrets tight. Stay tuned, because next we'll don our investigator hats and wade through the evidence to separate fact from folklore. It's time to don our investigator hats and wade through the evidence, separating cold, hard facts from fevered imagination, while still keeping a few conspiracy theories on the table for good measure. First, we dug into the archives. Rivertown newspapers, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers dredge logs, and steamship manifests from 1850 to 1920. One 1883 Corps report described unidentified obstructions picked up by early sonar trials, though engineers later chalked it up to submerged stumps and drifting debris. A Daily Delta article from 1875 quoted a steamboat pilot insisting his hull scraped against something as firm as stone 5 miles upriver, yet follow-up surveys mapped no outcrops. Even more curious, a series of official river depth charts mysteriously omit a quarter-mile stretch near Greenville where most sightings occur. Archivists speculate that local contractors may have suppressed depth anomalies to protect lucrative dredging contracts, a plausible business conspiracy but hardly proof of a monster. Either way, the records show patterns of maddening inconsistency, hints of cover-ups, and plenty of room for something or someone to quietly slip through. Next, we tapped modern experts for their take. Dr. Cynthia Morales, a freshwater ecologist, assures us there's no unknown aquatic behemoth in North America's rivers. The Mississippi's record-keeping of fish species is exhaustive. She points to giant paddlefish and prehistoric sturgeons, creatures capable of growing over 6 feet long, as the likely culprits behind some sightings. Meanwhile, acoustic specialist Dr. Alan Nguyen ran echo sound tests and demonstrated how temperature inversions and channel acoustics can warp engine sounds into ghostly roars. He even staged a mock ghost paddle wheel by lowering a metal grate into the water and broadcasting engine noises through underwater speakers, instant phantom steamboat. But not every boomer boom can be explained that way. Dr. Nguyen admits that on certain foggy nights, the river bottom seems to eat sound outright, creating dead zones where sonar and nets return nothing. Combine that with swirling currents around submerged trees, and you get the perfect recipe for mystery. Then we turn to the human element, folk rumors and whispered legends. Local elder Mary Bell Thompson, whose family has lived on the riverbank since before the Civil War, recounts how her grandmother tied protective charms, hand-carved Choctaw symbols, to canoe prows to ward off the Akaka. She describes secret midnight ceremonies at sunken Choctaw villages, where shamans supposedly bridge the gap between spirit and flesh. Some anglers swear an old river hermit deliberately left carved driftwood panels in the current to steer the monster away from his fishing hole, an elaborate prank that spiraled out of control over generations. These stories may be half true, half tall tale, but they reveal a striking consistency. Every community along the river claims a slightly different version of the same creature, each version more elaborate than the last, and each embellishment tethers the legend more tightly to human hopes, fears, and local rivalries. After weighing the archives, expert interviews, and living folklore, 4 possibilities emerge. First, the mundane, a cluster of large fish, shifting logs, and echo quirks, blown into myth by frightened steamboat crews. Second, a regional hoax, perhaps river gangs or even tourism boosters engineering sightings to scare off competitors. Third, an undiscovered cryptid surviving in secret cold water channels, a living relic from the last ice age. Or finally, a collision of human imagination and environmental oddities so perfect that even the skeptics can't completely explain it. The mainstream academic consensus leans toward drifting debris and sound distortion, but as Dr. Nguyen reminds us, science can only prove what we measure. It can't rule out every shadow. So we're left with an open question: is the Blackwater monster just a trick of light, sound, and memory? Or is something truly unknown hiding beneath those ebony waves? We'll explore these theories even deeper in our final module, so if you think you've got the answer, stick around. From flickering lanterns and mysterious symbols to the ghostly roar of paddle wheels and the crooning rituals of the Choctaw, we peel back the layers of Blackwater legend, and the evidence piles up in every direction. On one hand, science suggests giant spoonbill and floating debris are deceiving our weary eyes and sonar beams. On the other, secret carvings and oral rituals hint at a creature rooted deep in the river's soul, one far older than our maps. Perhaps it's a perfect storm of acoustics, folklore, and opportunistic trickery, or perhaps something truly unknown is still lurking in the depths without us even realizing it. One thing is for sure, the Mississippi refuses to give up its secrets quietly. Perhaps the real mystery isn't a monster at all, but our own desire for the impossible. Or perhaps beneath the dark waves, eyes still glow in the moonlight. Whatever you choose, the river's final verdict is yet to be revealed, and this is your time to be part of it. Share in the comments the strangest river story you've ever heard, or your wildest guess about the Akaka River's true identity. If you've spotted any unexplained wonders on your own riverbank, we'd love to hear about them. If this journey through shadows and sonar resonates with you, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next trip into history's hidden corners. In the next episode, we'll unravel the mystery of the Texas drunken rat outbreak. Until then, keep your eyes on the river and open your heart to the impossible.